Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain. We are heading back to Silverstone for rounds 11 and 12 of this 2023 championship. My name is Connery Maddock, and as ever, I'm joined by the wonderful Paul Smith as we get some fast and frenetic racing here, not only at Silverstone, but at the Silverstone National Circuit. This one's going to be an interesting one. This one's going to be completely action-packed as well, Paul. I just can't wait to get started with this.
Yeah, if you like slipstreaming and close pack racing, then this is exactly where you want to be right now. Silverstone National, you've really got no place to hide around here. There's only about 6 corners on this track, of which only 3 of them actually have any braking zone to them. So it's definitely going to be an intriguing challenge for the drivers out there, and well, we're certainly going to see some fireworks, that's for sure.
Yep, I think so too. This is going to be perhaps one of, if not the most action-packed, closest races that we have on the calendar. We can see where we've been and where we're going now. Of course, we started things off at Silverstone for the first race meeting of the season. That was on the full Grand Prix layout. Then we headed to our one of our short tracks of the season. We headed to Brands Hatch Indy. Then we had rounds at Snetterton, Spa as our race across the channel there. And then you've got here at Silverstone National. Then, the weeks after this, we've got Donington Park and then Brands Hatch GP as our finale. But Silverstone National is where it is at here today. And drivers just about getting themselves out there into their qualifying session here for the moment. But they've got a long qualifying session. We've got plenty of time to go through everything. We've got 20 minutes of open qualifying. Remember, this qualifying session does not give you extra buffer time to complete your lap. Once that time expires, that is going to be it. Then we head ourselves into race number 1 of 25 minutes there. Then we'll get ourselves a little bit of a break, a little bit of a warm-up before we head into our second of our 2 races. Another 25-minute race with a reverse grid. That's the top 6 reversed. We have 2 different championship structures on offer here for this season as well. We have the Pro class and the AM class as well. And there's an extra 2 bonus points for pole position. So that's how the format works out here, Paul. You know, we're very, very familiar with it these days as we take a look at the points situation. Sebastian Job has been exemplary over the course of this one. He's 25 points ahead of William Chadwick. And, well, when you consider, Paul, that a maximum point score from a race day here in this championship is 24 points, he's more than a race meeting ahead now.
Yeah, he can just decide to not turn up one round and still be leading the championship, could Sebastian. But that's not the way that Sebastian drives. He was absolutely imperious last time out at Spa-Francorchamps and just had everybody's number last time out. But here at Silverstone, as I say, you're going to have a little bit more tricky. You've got pack racing in this one, but you can make overtakes here. But yeah, Will Chadwick, it's going to be a tall order for him to overhaul that gap.
Yep, it's going to be very, very difficult indeed, but not impossible. However, it's a completely different situation when we talk about the AMs, because there are only 2 points between Gareth Higgins and Leo Garibaldi. Of course, Garibaldi was one of those drivers in the AM class that really impressed us in the early parts of the season. However, over the last couple of race weekends, Gareth Higgins has really come to a forefront, stamping his authority on this AM championship. It's still very, very close at this stage, but it could definitely go either way between these two, especially with Garibaldi bouncing back a little bit in the previous race day.
Yeah, he certainly did. After having a bit of a mare, I think it's fair to say, at both Snetterton and Alton Park, got back onto the horse at Spa and got himself a perfect round for him to bring him back up to within 2 points of that championship lead. But Gareth Higgins, we've seen the pace that he's had this season, especially coming forward after we hit Snetterton. I think he could be still within the chance of winning the championship.
Yep, still there as a contender, that is for sure. And perhaps there might come a stage of this competition where we do have to start to focus more a little bit on the AM Championship than the Pro, due to it being so close down there. Well, we'll just step aside for just a couple of moments because, well, here's how to negotiate a very short Silverstone National Circuit.
Hello, my name is William Chadwick, driver of the Altus Esports Porsche 992 GT3 Cup car, and welcome to the 6th track walk of the 2023 Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain Championship. We are back here at Silverstone for this round, our first repeat venue of 2023 at the National Circuit. The National Circuit here at Silverstone is a much shorter layout of the track we used earlier in the year, the Grand Prix Circuit. This layout will be expecting lap times of around about 55 seconds depending on the conditions, and it uses the historic pit straight along with the famous Copse Corner as number 1. Key challenges of the national layout at Silverstone is, for me, turns 2 and 3 is a really hard braking zone, as you have to kind of turn a little bit left as you enter what would be the Maggots and Beckett's complex. Getting onto the curb and straightening out the exit as much as possible through Aintree and onto the Wellington Straight can be really challenging, especially in this Porsche 992 GT3 Cup car. With that said, please come and join me now for a driver's eye view in the Porsche 992 GT3 Cup car. Here we are for a lap of the Silverstone National Circuit in the Porsche 992 GT3 Cup car. Down into turn number 1, Copse Corner, we're looking for a braking point just after the 100 metre board. Clip the inside curb, get the car rotated and make sure you keep 2 wheels on that curb to avoid any track limits penalties. Down into turn number 2 and 3, that really tricky braking zone I talked about. Into 3 you get your front wheel on the curb and then straighten the car out as much as possible through Aintree. Small short shift just for a little bit of aid with the traction, and down the Wellington Straight towards Brooklands. We open it out onto the curb, braking again just past 100 metre board, being really careful on the brakes, clipping the inside. Down into Luffield, we take our first apex, treat it as a double apex corner, short shift to third again, use that second apex, full power out, and through the final corner to complete a lap of the Silverstone National Circuit. Thank you for joining me for the 6th track walk of the 2023 Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great British Championship. Now, back over to your commentary team of Paul and Connery, and hopefully I do well in the race. But until next time, see ya.
Well, thank you very much there, Will. It's it was very short track guide indeed, so hopefully no issues whatsoever for these drivers to try and find their way around as these laps tactic by oh so quickly. But we have got 12.5 minutes left of qualifying here. Here's the early order as it stands, but we do have to put a little asterisk on this, Paul, as for those that might be joining us at this point in the season and haven't seen any of the other qualifying sessions just yet, a lot of these drivers are just kind of circulating to burn off the fuel first before they get themselves a fast lap down.
Yeah, basically just to explain to everyone, because this is a fixed setup series, that means that all the drivers are using the exact same setup on their car, which means they've all got identical cars. The thing is, though, you're starting qualifying with the race fuel load on. So what you try to do is trying to reduce that fuel load on the car, make the car as light as possible during the early part of qualifying, and then into the final. Well, normally we'd say 5 minutes, but here, even the last 2 minutes, you can still get a couple of really hot laps in at the end of qualifying and, really set your mark towards the end of that qualifying time. Yeah,
absolutely. So that's the reason why we would say the qualifying time is currently a little unrepresentative, especially for the rear third of the field at the moment, which are still circulating with lap times over a minute, when we know they are capable of what are they doing? They were doing 55 seconds in the practice session, and some of them have actually got themselves into there now, so they're not playing the fuel shenanigans and just going all out there to set the fastest time here earlier on in the session. Charles Rainford, a guest driver, Porsche driver in the real world, of course, in the number 99, topping the order here for the moment, but I get the feeling that might be a little short-lived.
Don't forget, Rainford, of course, the Pro-Am champion from last year in the Porsche Carrera Cup Great Britain. So a driver of much talent, and he's really taken to the sim by storm and been getting his shoulders out, hasn't he, in previous races. Upset our championship leader, Sebastian Job, at Alton Park.
Well, it's you're all fighting over the same positions on the same track. It's not like he was a lap down by the traffic, but I'll say no more on that particular topic there. But you can see now Sebastian Job has gotten himself up into provisional pole position. The only driver so far to set a time in the 54 seconds. Everyone else in the 55s and higher here for the moment. Luke Pennington doing very well in the AM car to get himself a front row starting place here for the moment, but still a lot of time left in this session for everything to change. Still haven't seen a competitive lap time come through yet for William Chadwick, for example, which is Sebastian Job's closest contender in that pro class. There is Luke Pennington just circulating around here for the moment, and I have to wonder if he does have a little bit of extra time in the bag towards the end of this session.
Oh, I think he will, just by the nature of the car getting a bit lighter. Of course, it doesn't have as bigger effect on the cars around this track because of it being such a short lap. You're not going to be seeing these huge, big gaps like we saw last time out at Spa when Sebastian was, what, half a second ahead of everybody else per lap. Around here you're not going to see that. You're going to see tenths or hundredths of a second separating people, or in the case of Josh Merlin and Jack Sedgwick, a thousandth of a second right now separating those two.
Track conditions up on your screen. We are simulating the fact that we're on the 26th of September here in Sim, so the temperature's perhaps a little bit higher than they would be here in the real world in the UK. Got a decent amount of cloud cover coming through here at the moment as well, which is why the track temperature has not been able to rise as high as we perhaps would expect to see it at this point in the day. One of the Pure Sims cars having issues there out in towards the gravel, just falling off the circuit a little bit there. Not sure what that was about, Paul.
Well, that was Jamie Rushworth. I think he was really trying to just keep out of people's way and ended up a little bit too far wide. Of course, these drivers are instructed by race control that they've got to, if they're going to be just circulating doing laps, they've got to keep a minimum time. You know, they're not allowed to go overly slow around a lap here. They're not allowed to be sort of weaving as well. So these drivers are just going round at that sort of minimum speed range and getting the laps in, just getting the fuel burnt off, and then we'll start seeing things pick up and see those times coming in thick and fast towards the end of qualifying. But yeah, Job, I have a funny feeling he's got quite a bit more time left in him at the head of the field right now.
Yeah, I get that feeling as well, and well, we'll know for sure in the next 7 minutes. So we're riding on board with Gareth Higgins here at the moment, currently, well, quote-unquote pole position, but in AM here at the moment. He'll start on second row if this is the order that we'll have at the end of this session. But he's in a very, very important championship fight with Leo Garibaldi. And, well, if he can start roughly where he is now in race number 1, that would be pretty good going, all things considered. Especially given Garibaldi, again, has not put in a competitive lap time just yet, but we are expecting him to do so very, very imminently. And, well, there we go, up into 5th place.
Will Chadwick as well getting his first competitive lap time in. So now the lap times are going to be starting ramping up now, and people are really going to start pushing on and getting lap times in. Sebastian Job, I believe, has been onto pit road. Thomas Cope is onto pit road right now, so deciding that get yourself a set of boots late on in qualifying can really help you out potentially and get yourself a good lap time at the end. I was actually looking at the practice times. To be fair, Sebastian Job had beaten his practice time in qualifying, but only just. So either he was keeping his powder dry in practice, or really are pushing on and getting those lap times in now.
Look at how close the top 3 are. Just below 600ths of a second between all 3 of them. That is incredibly, incredibly close. And with the time left in the session, there's no reason why others can't get themselves stuck in up there as well. Charles Rainford across the line goes to pole position. That's a lap and a half from Charles. Wow.
And of course, this is a track that he knows very well. don't forget, from his Porsche Carrera Cup Great Britain driving last year out, and of course being able to put in plenty of time of practice here in the sim as well. So Rainford, it could be a dark horse. Like I say, he's been really on it, to be fair, with his pace.
Yeah, it's really showing up today. That's a big surprise for me. But here's Leo Garibaldi, currently a couple of positions in this qualifying order behind his championship rival of Gareth Higgins. Needs to solve this issue in qualifying. This is going to be an outlap here for Garibaldi before he goes potentially onto a faster one. But that will come a little bit later on in the session. Don't think it's going to be the next one immediately after this. Meanwhile, riding on board with the number 88, this is William Chadwick from Altus Esports. Of course, started off the season driving from that Team Fortilla outfit, but changed midway through to Altus, and has continued to put up some decent results. However, hasn't quite had the edge over Sebastian Job, and that's not a slight in the slightest. It's very, very difficult to get one over Sebastian Job, given his many accolades.
Well, I mean, Job, let's not forget, he was the first ever Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain champion. He is also the 2020 Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup champion. So he's somebody who knows how to win championships and to do it at the top level against some of the best sim racers in the world. So if you're able to be competing with Sebastian up here at the front of this field, you're doing something right, aren't you, with your esports career? And right now, Will Chadwick's going to try another lap potentially.
On to another one. We'll have plenty in hand by the time this session is done. 3 minutes 30 left on the clock. We're only doing 55 seconds in terms of our lap times here today, and it's worth reminding everyone that once time expires, that's it. No one will be able to complete their laps. It's due to things being done in a heat racing session here, so we don't have to change servers in between the two races. It does mean, though, that the qualifying session does get truncated just that little bit. So always have to keep that in mind, knowing that you might not get that extra opportunity right at the very end of the session. Gareth Higgins, 4th place here in the qualifying order for the moment, and look at that. 6 drivers covered within 0.08 of a second at the very top of qualifying.
Yeah, it's incredibly close. Here comes Chadwick. Can he improve? So far, he's not improving across the sectors. Does get a quicker final sector in, but doesn't actually improve his lap time, so stays in 3rd place. Yes, you called it earlier, Rainford. That was a heck of a lap that he put in, and it is showing it.
An incredible effort, and we might, I don't want to speak too soon, but there's a percentage chance that we'll be talking about a Charles Rainford pole position here in about 2 minutes' time. Here's the onboard with Josh Malin, though, in 11th place. Will back out of that lap. I think Matt Emery going to the top of the order. The faster lap times starting to come through now, aren't they? He goes almost 1/10 of a second faster than Rainford. What's the response, though, from Sebastian Job?
Wow. Let's find out. Sebastian, I can tell you his first sector is an absolute best first sector on this lap right now. Middle sector, not as good in towards Brooklands and Luffield. It's the run out of Luffield that you need to carry the speed out of this corner, down through Woodcote corner towards the end of the lap. Leo Garibaldi to the top of the AM pole position, so that's good. What does Seb Job do?
Sebastian Job across the line. That time is a 54.7, and does it count? Yes, it does. Goes to the top of the order. Moon goes to 3rd place here. Still time left in the session for others to try and mount an attack, but that is a dominant lap time there from Sebastian Job, looking to take yet another pole position here in the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain, unless Will Chadwick has anything to say about this as he heads his way through in amongst a bit of a pack of cars here up towards the start-finish line. What's the lap time going to be for Chadwick across the line? A 54.9 is not going to be enough for the Altus Esports driver. Pulls it to the side of the circuit, takes the tow back to pit lane, and that's, I believe, the top order pretty much sorted out, unless we get some surprises in the final 30 seconds.
Jack Sedgwick is on a lap still, as is this man on screen right now, Matt Emery, although I think he's just backed off a little bit. Doesn't seem to quite have the personal bests through the sectors. But what a position that would be for Emery to get if he does keep that second place. Higgins, what can he do? This is his last opportunity. He does not improve.
No improvement there, and time has now expired. It's done. No extra lap to be able to complete here before we head straight into race number 1 of the afternoon. So with that, we can take a little bit of a look at our starting grid then for race number 1 here at the Silverstone National Circuit. Of course, as ever, as it has been pretty much every time throughout this entire season so far, it's Sebastian Job from Red Bull Racing Esports team. Matt Emery gets himself onto the front row with a very competent qualifying time, with Jamie Moon getting a second row start. Charles Rainford still, that is a fantastic qualifying performance to get himself onto the second row, starting P4. Will Chadwick needs to do a little bit more, starting from P5. Then you've got our top qualifying AM driver, that is Luke Pennington, getting himself to the very, very top of the field. We've got Leo Garibaldi starting very close behind, and he shares a row with his championship rival of Gareth Higgins. That one's going to be very interesting to see there on row 4. Then you've got starting in 9th with Jack Cedric from Inex Racing. Then you've got Pure Sims' Jamie Rushworth there in P10 with Leon Penn starting in 11th. Olympus Esports 64, Thomas Cope starts in 12th. Then you got Ollie Peacock from ATRS Esports starting 13th. Then you got Josh Malin there in 14th place. Scott Mokes will start 15th with Eric Grove in 16th. Then you got Adam State and Craig Williams rounding out the top 18 cars. James Parker will start in 19th with Brandon Blakesley in 20th. Adam Cox and Jacob Tofts will comprise our final row of the starting grid here. Those, of course, are the 2 new drivers to the championship at this stage. So just taking a little bit of a look at a couple of our drivers. We have both of the AM championship contenders there. You got on the top left, you have Leo Garibaldi. On the bottom, you have Gareth Higgins. So it's great that they've both been able to share their view of things here, Paul, because you can get their reactions maybe just in case it goes all wrong.
Yeah, that's certainly what we love to see, is just get that in-person live reaction as to how things go for those drivers. But they'll be getting themselves prepared for the start of this race in about 40 seconds time. It's going to be tough out there for a lot of these drivers because it is such a slipstream track and pack racing around here. As I said, 3 braking zones into Copse Corner, into Maggots and Beckett's, and then down at Brooklands are the 2 main braking zones, and you can make overtakes in those 3 portions of the track. So patience is going to be key, but we'll get plenty of laps around here in 25 minutes.
We absolutely do. Drivers taking themselves to the starting grid now. We're about 5 seconds away from getting ourselves started here on our run down towards Copse Corner. That's going to be our turn number 1, just like the good old days here at Silverstone. Just a couple of seconds away now. Just about to get ourselves started here for round 11 of the championship in the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup. Great Britain, we are off and away. It's a storming start from Sebastian Job. Charles Rainford, an electric start down the inside here of Jamie Moon down in towards Copse Corner as the field flies through there. Charles Rainford already up into 3rd place with a crazy start. We need to get a replay of that one because that is absolutely awesome. Meanwhile, side by side behind,
it was Higgins. Higgins was involved in that one. Your amateur championship contender was involved with Jack Cedric on that start and finish straight. That's what happened to us. My goodness, already drama in the AM championship.
Yep, absolutely. Huge stuff, so lots to look at here in just a couple of moments' time as the battles rage on. Thomas Cope and Jamie Rushworth going wheel to wheel here. Cope going to get caught up on the outsides there. You can see that's the view further down the heads there with your race leaders. Sebastian Job, Matt Emery, Charles Rainford, Jamie Moon here is the order at this moment in time. That's lap number 1 complete already here, Paul. And there's already, like you said, championship issues down the order as Gareth Higgins drops all the way back.
It's that mid-pack that's really giving us some action, isn't it? They're going too wide. Rushworth involved in that one, lost a place. You got Merckx is getting hung out to dry potentially here. Josh Malin's moving forward in this field. Oh, Ollie Peacock, a few internet connection issues there, but he's back with us. But yeah, that mid-pack is really giving us some excitement. And speaking of excitement, there Gary Burley's trying to get the AM lead.
He absolutely is. He's looking to try and capitalise on the misfortune of Gareth Higgins. And, well, why wouldn't you? Garibaldi all over the back of Pennington. We're riding on board with Leon Penn here for the moment as Garibaldi looks towards the outside, in towards Cox Corner. Always sketchy to go too wide through here. Quite rightfully backs out of that situation. But they're losing the pack ahead a little bit here, but these drivers don't really necessarily care. There was the incident at the very back of the field involving Higgins in the wall.
So they got caught up by somebody. Oh, it was Garibaldi trying to go down between Chadwick and Pennington. Higgins had to take avoiding action, and, well, Sedgwick has got absolutely nowhere to go here. He's suddenly got a car into the side of him.
That is a bit of a cluster back there, let's just say that. That's unfortunate. Of course, it affects our championships here. I mean, the stewards will have a lot to do after this one to try and figure out what went on there and to ascribe any penalties as required. We can only work with what we can be given, though.
I'll be honest, just looking at that from what we saw, it's a racing incident. It's right at the start of the race. People are trying to... You know, Leo Garibaldi got an incredible launch, trying to send it through the middle with Will Chadwick coming across, closing off that gap. It's a start line incident. Unfortunately, it's just one of those things that happens as Rainford and Moon now going side by side.
Indeed, they are. Another little battle here, this time a little bit further up the order than what we've been watching. Rainford tried to hold on to that third place. Moon unsuccessful in making the overtake there down in towards left field now. Look at how close they are. Bumper to bumper coming through the corner. Moon's going to get a good run off the corner here. He might have a run through Woodcut and might be able to have a little bit of a chance in towards Copper's Corner if he's brave. Rainford immediately going for the defense, going to have a compromised line through this fast right-hander. If he can get up underneath him, he might be able to challenge it to Maggots and Beckett, and does have that slight overlap, does Jamie Moon. Now he needs to commit around the outside of Maggots, onto the brakes into Beckett, but there's contact between the two. Oh, Rainford out in towards the escape. Out in towards the runoff and loses a lot of positions. Meanwhile, Chadwick's picked up the pieces.
Oh, Chadwick's going very aggressive there as well. He knows he's got to try and make some moves for his championship's sake, but he's taken a little bit of a risk there. Job and Emery have run away at the front of the field while those three were duking it out, but I would love to see that one again from up above with Rainford. Whether Rainford came across and squeezed, whether Moon came across and into the contact, I don't know, but that one was always going to end in tears, as speaking of tears, Craig Williams has got himself into, well, one of our newcomers, Jacob Tofts.
Indeed, and there's the replay on the big part of your screen there. Never want to see that happen. But it was a hard-fought fight between the two there, and let's see it from the above view.
Oh.
Just a bit of contact through the middle of, well, just after the apex of Maggots there.
I think that's on Moon, is that one, just from that view there. He came across onto Rainford's line, and I tell you what, Charles will be absolutely incandescent with rage over that one.
Yeah, I think that mood would be very understandable given the situation as well. He put in an absolutely mega qualifying effort, got an amazing start to get himself up into third place, but then to be sent back through the field in those set of circumstances, yeah, that's going to be very, very frustrating, no matter if you're just a sim racing driver or if you're just a real-world driver or both. The feelings are the exact same. We are still riding on board with Charles Rainford now as he gets his recovery driving gear.
Yeah, this is all about a recovery drive now. Get up as many places as you can. Yes, he's a guest driver. Yes, he doesn't get involved in the championship in terms of scoring points, but he still wants to get out there and race these drivers and do as best as he can. And right now, 13th place, he'll be wanting to move forward out of this one.
Yeah, he absolutely will. So, continuing on forward, maybe it's well, potentially a little bit more excitement later on in the races as we see Rainford charge through. However, that all is dependent on if he has even a little bit of damage on the curb, because especially with the new damage models, we see Chadwick with a very interesting definition of the track limits coming out of the Cops corner. Sometimes the slightest tap on these cars can cause major issues, especially if it's directly onto the wheel, the suspension. A tiny little knock and gets things out of alignment, that can be absolutely catastrophic. But it seems to be going along well so far.
Yeah, it certainly can do. You're absolutely right there, Connery. That Gariboli, light dive out into Brooklands. Has to back out of it, but he's signalling his intention here. You get the feeling that he knows that that his championship rival in Gareth Higgins is floundering, and he knows that this is a great opportunity to score big over him.
Yeah, massive opportunity, and this might be the turning point in the AM Championship. Just this race with so few left to go. Of course, we got one later this afternoon, then we've got total 4 races to go after that. Not a massive amount of opportunities to be able to turn the tide. But Gariboli doing a great job here for the moment, capitalising on issues. Doesn't necessarily want to have to get to the AM lead to really be in a good place, but would definitely prefer it. You see problems going on further back. That was with the number 64, that was with Thomas Cope. As we see Gariboli down the inside now of Pennington, battle for the AM lead. Through Brooklands and now in towards Lovefield. Pennington on the inside here will be able to get the ground gained through the middle of the corner, but through the exit is where it might matter, as Gariboli now on the outside of Woodcote going to lose a little bit more ground into Pennington, but now this is where the line really works out for him. In towards Cops corner, has to back out of things slightly, goes up for the up and under, and well, is he going to be successful in doing so? It looks pretty successful so far on the way down in towards Maggots and Beckett, and Pennington's just going to back out of it and say well played.
And Josh Merlin was a big winner out of that as well. He gains a place over Penn, who had to check up mid-corner through Cops corner. That's not easy to do, is that. You can unsettle the car. It will have put Penn a little bit out of sorts there, and that's opened him up now to attack from Ollie Peacock. But Josh Merlin now is wanting to look forward, because don't forget here, folks, in this race, I mean, we're not even 10 minutes into this race yet. 6th place gets you the reverse grid pole position for race number 2.
Yep, that's an important point as well. Always got to consider top 6 gets themselves reversed for race 2, and like you said, Pennington in the right seat in terms of that for the moment, but is going to have a decent amount of challenges for that. Malin, of course, like you mentioned, going to be one of them, and well, we've got Penn, we've got Peacock, we've got Cope. You can even count Rushworth, State, Rainford, Grove, Cedric all in this, because they're all in pretty much slightly separated, but in one long train for all intents and purposes. And there we go. You can see Leon Penn going defensive immediately, because Ollie Peacock's looking to try and go around the outside. There's battle ahead between Malin and Pennington as well. Pennington will actually lose out in that one. So Malin up into reverse grid pole position as Peacock and Penn and fight in behind in towards Lovefield, and Penn will lose the ground here coming through the exit of Lovefield, and Peacock will be able to get up in towards that 8th pace and continue to press on forward, especially try to threaten a Pennington who's been losing a couple of positions over the last couple of laps.
Pennington rather sort of just gave Malin the position there, didn't he? And just said, go on, go through, Josh. But I don't know if I agree with that, because Luke, he is 32 points off of the championship lead in 3rd place in AM. It's a long shot, but you still want to give yourself the best opportunity. Here's Josh Malin then, behind the wheel, and just look nice and calm, just focused. And he's been doing a good job of moving forward here in this field. He'll have been disappointed with his qualifying, and he's going forward here as Pennington and Peacock now are switching positions behind them as well.
Yeah, look at that. Oh, it's just a gaggle of cars going through Lovefield, isn't there? 2 by 2. And oh, there's a bit of a check there from Penn and Cope, and another little bit of contact between the two. They're leaning on each other coming down the straight here, obscured slightly by the battle ahead. Cope dives down the inside. Oh, he's bitten too much of the cherry there, and now he has to go out in towards the runoff area. Thankfully, the gravel doesn't immediately make itself known through the exit of the cops there. Otherwise, that would have been catastrophic. But Cope, I think he was getting a little frustrated with the bits of trading paint that he just sent it into cops and almost took out someone in the battle ahead.
I think that was adhesion over ambition there, or ambition over adhesion, should I say, in that one. And Cope is the big loser in that one. Oh my goodness! You've got Rainford, you've got Cope, you've got Sedgwick all together. Sedgwick's gone off, in fact, and I think he's dropped down the order there, so getting caught out in Brooklyn. Cope is off. Well, Cope is a human highlight reel right now for us here. This is a bit crazy. He's losing places through all of this.
I'm fairly certain he would rather not be on the highlight reel and instead gaining positions instead of losing them here for the moment. Battles no matter where you look here at the moment, because Eric Grove is looking all over the back of Rainford as well into Maggots and Beckett. Things calm down just very, very slightly as they get themselves single file through this particular section. And, well, this is a replay of exactly what happens. This is number 10. This is Jack Sedgwick. That's his issue there. And, well, as a result of this being one big, long train, instantly loses, 3 or 4 spots there. And there's Thomas Cope getting a bit of off-track excursion there.
As we cut back to live pictures. Oh, that's Sedgwick and Cope, so they've come together again. Oh, Cope's had an entertaining few laps here as Gareth Higgins going round now the outside of Sedgwick. So Higgins is gaining places, it must be said. Unfortunately, he's not gaining any places on any AM drivers at the moment.
Yeah, that's the awkward thing for Higgins. Even if you do finish ahead of a pro driver, you're not getting any more points for finishing ahead of a pro driver compared to finishing of the AM driver. It's the same. The inverse is the same as well.
I'm sorry.
The squeeze down the pit straight as well. You can see that Cope is making that Porsche pretty wide, and Sedgwick is not appreciative of it.
It's unnecessary, is what that is right there. Cope does not need to be trying to rub the paintwork off of the side of Sedgwick's car there. Sedgwick is right over to the far left-hand side of that track there, down the Wellington Straight, and it's just not needed. Calm down. I know you've been involved in a few things there, Thomas, but you can't let your emotions take over.
Yeah, you can't. You absolutely can't. And believe it or not, we still have 11 minutes of this race to go. So, so if you like action-packed races, I think you should probably stick around, because we have another race after this one as well. If that doesn't give you your fill. But here's Leon Penn here, involved in a bit of a trio with Pennington and Peacock directly ahead. So the train has been split just very, very slightly due to all those issues that we just had. Meanwhile, Rushworth gets himself past Adams State there through the exit of Beckett's. But there's our race leader. We haven't really talked much about him since the very start of the race. And Sebastian Job just doing Sebastian Job things. 1.6 seconds back to Emery, who's actually been running very well.
Yeah, Matt has been very impressive, it must be said, and he really it seems to have the pace this week in that car, and certainly doing a good job behind the wheel. But Job, I mean, he's picked up where he left off at Spa, hasn't he? And he's just walked away from the rest of the field. He's just that comfortable behind the car right now. Everything seems to be working well for him.
Yeah, here's the onboard with Matt Emery. In a little bit of no man's land here at the moment, not really locking onto the back of Sebastian Job and continuing to gap Will Chadwick behind as well. So can probably just settle in and cruise to a second place finish here. Meanwhile, no cruising going on back here. It's just absolute fighting tooth and nail. Rushworth down the inside of State in the very background of the shot there. And Rainford potentially going to get stuck into this situation as well. 3 wide going through left field as Rainford sticks it down the inside. States half spins in front of back, gets put all the way around out into the grass there. Oh, that's, well, probably the expected outcome from 3 wide through Luffield there, Paul, to be completely honest.
Yeah, 3 wide through Luffield just does not work at all. It really doesn't. And, you know, sometimes you've got to be a driver who sees a bit of sense and says, do you know what, let's just back out of this one and survive and get ourselves a good finish. This has been a real mix-up of the field. What that does do, that incident, is it actually brings Adam State towards Gareth Higgins. So Higgins might have an AM driver to play with in a few laps' time.
Yeah, potentially. Every little point matters. Here's a replay of the situation. Keep an eye on Rainford just completely diving it to the inside of left field there. Straight in, finds the gap. I mean, there was kind of a gap, however, it's a three-wide situation, and well done from everyone behind to avoid the spinning car there as well. That was great heads-up driving.
Grove did very well there. That gap is always going to close there on the exit. So State was doing what some drivers do, where they V off the hairpin there at Luffield. But the problem is, when you're in a tight pack like that, if you're on the inside, you need to hug that apex. You can't V it off, because you invite an opportunity like Rainford saw there, and he's going to stick his nose in. And then when you come along to then take your natural line of taking a tight exit apex, there's going to be contact.
Yeah, it is. It's sort of, yeah, it's got to be a little bit more careful, a little bit more cautious. You can see, well, maybe not from this camera angle, but it's on other angles you can see how drivers are sort of drifting out through the middle of the left field before cutting back in to get the speed off the corner. That's one of the main strategies to negotiate that corner. You can also just sort of hug around the inside all the way around as well. But it depends on the circumstances that you have, which car you're driving, where you feel the car's performance is at, how your setup is. Not that it matters here in a series like this when everything's fixed setup. But we're riding on board with Garibaldi at the moment, who's being chased down by Malin. And Garibaldi, well, you can afford not really to fight this.
What a drive by Josh Malin, by the way. It's worth pointing out. That has been a great drive. Started in 14th in this race, and he's already up to 6th place. And I think Josh wants even more places in this one. Now, with the grid, with the start here, you start on pole position on the outside line, which is the line that the drivers use normally. So you're going to be on the grippier side of the grid if you start on pole position. So the question is, does Malin just want to get as many places as he possibly can, or is he thinking, I'll keep it on pole position, thank you?
Yeah, it's interesting, because our first corner is a right-hander, of course, it's Cobb's corner. However, you're starting on the outside of it. So if P2 gets a good start and you don't quite get a better one, then there's a potential that you'll have an overlap down in towards turn number 1, and that car on the inside might be in a bit of a better position to try and work the pass in towards the first sector there. So it's a very interesting one. I mean, I'm not entirely sure which position I would like to be in, given those circumstances anyway. But maybe these drivers do have a bit of a preference. Maybe we'll ask them in their interviews after the race, Paul. That's a good idea.
Yeah, we could do. And Will Chadwick has been closing up, to be fair, to Matt Emery. So Chadwick has had the pace towards the end of the race here. I mean, he was 2.5 tenths faster on his last lap alone here. But with 5 minutes remaining, we've got about 6 laps remaining in this race. Will need Matt to start making some mistakes if he's got any hope of getting second place. And Emery now 2.8 seconds back from Sebastian Job. Absolutely sensational from Sebastian.
Yeah, Sebastian just showing what a professional he is, what a talent that he has behind the wheel of these Porsches. You know, when you say this is a fixed setup, you know, it's identical cars for everyone out there in terms of setup, you know, in terms of performance. Yet he is somehow able to go even tenths of a second a lap faster on a track as short as this than everyone else. And I bet everyone else in this field, you know, they are going to be top split drivers in pretty much every other event, right? But he's able to gap them by that amount. It's crazy.
Speaking of crazy, James Parker's having a look at Adam Cox, one of the newcomers to the series, and the DCW racing driver is going to get actually caught out by Eric Grove here. Nice run through the exit of Cops Corner by Eric, one of our pro drivers. It threw Maggots into Beckett's. Do you know what the tricky part about Beckett's is getting it slowed down without locking up that inside wheel, because if you do that, you're going straight on, and off the track
Yeah.
and going off down the Grand Prix layout as more ducking and diving ahead. Jamie Rushworth is having to keep his eyes on a swivel with Scott Merckx behind as well.
Locking up, of course, easy to do in these cars. You don't have the luxury of having any ABS, so it can be very, very sketchy indeed on the brakes in these cars, especially if you're much more used to, say, GT3 racing, where you do have all those driver assistance systems. So it can be interesting to try and adapt to these cars if you're not so familiar with how they're raced, especially with how the weight distribution is here in these Porsche 911s with all that weight over the rear wheels. It's a bit of a different beast compared to most cars, I find, to try and wheel around a circuit. You have to sort of treat it in a different way.
Yeah, you've got to be quite, how shall we say, a little bit sort of deft with the application of the throttle and the brakes here in this car. And you're quite right, no ABS in this particular version of the car. Of course, there are other series around the world that do actually use this car and have a little bit of ABS for them out there. But these cars here today, they do not have that luxury. And it's a real test of a driver's skill and adaptability to be able to get that speed out of the car over your rest of your competitors. And Seb, he must be having a lovely time on his Sunday afternoon drive.
Yeah, it's been pretty relaxing for Sebastian Job. The thing is, we know that this is not Sebastian Job's 110%. This is like Sebastian Job's 90%, probably, because we always know he leaves a little bit something extra in the tank just in case something happens, right?
You say that, his last lap just before he comes across the line was 7 thousandths of a second slower than his fastest lap of the race.
And even
so
then, I still think it's 90%.
Pushing. Oh, that one was 5 thousandths of a second slower than his fastest lap, so he's really consistent with his lap times right now, Sebastian.
Yeah, I mean, consistency is king, and that's one thing Sebastian is incredibly good at, is the consistency. But it is going to be a battle for P2, though, up on our screens, because Will Chadwick has been able to lock on to the back of Matt Emery, and now might be able to get himself a run off the corner, down the straight, towards Brooklands now. Chadwick, how is he going to negotiate this one? He's going to try and duck in and dive it down towards the inside. He is. There's an attempt made, and Emery's going to give him the space to be able to try and complete that move. Keeps it within the bounds of the circuit, in towards Luffield, side by side for P2. Emery's going to wash up in the middle of the corner, makes contact with the Altus Esports car on the outside. I'm pretty sure that was accidental, and I'm pretty sure they'll have a little bit of a chat about it after the race. But, that could have ended in tears for both of them.
Yeah, no malice in that at all. And yeah, it was just the car washing out mid-corner, which is what did it. But yeah, Will Chadwick, he's pushing the bounds quite literally of the track, and he's trying to get that second place just to try and help him in any way of trying to keep some sort of close eye on Sebastian Job at the head of the championship. But time is running out for these drivers.
Time is indeed running out, and it all depends on where Sebastian Job is on the circuit when that time expires. There he is, heading his way in through the exit of Luffield Corner, so this should be one to go. Coming to the line here. He'll be with a couple of seconds to spare, but either way, this will be the start of the final lap here. So another opportunity. Another ding-ding round 2 for Matt Emery and Chadwick right behind for that second place. And, well, they're already starting to have a look at this point early on in the lap. We've got Chadwick looking aggressive, looking potent as he looks towards the inside for Maggots. Becomes the outside here for Beckett as he compromises line on towards the straight, though. JB Moon is in behind this one, looking to pick up the pieces just in case it all goes wrong. Now Chadwick has to be focused on keeping himself in that slipstream down in towards Brooklands here. You can see Moon just sort of waiting in the wings. A shallow line being taken there by Emery, feeling the need to go defensive. Chadwick will pick up the time through the middle of the corner. Coming through Luffield now as we see Sebastian Job taking yet another race win here in the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain. Sebastian Job by 6.5 seconds over everyone else. Matt Emery picks up a second place finish with Will Chadwick there down in third. In terms of our reverse grid pole positions, that will go to Josh Malin.
What great racing. What great racing at the end there between Emery and Chadwick. I think Emery would have actually preferred it to have been one less lap than it was, but he managed to hold on in the end, as the rest of your drivers do finish this race. But Sebastian Job, utterly dominant at the front there, and very comfortable in his win there.
Yeah, absolutely. And, well, that's race number 1 done. You don't want to go away, though, because we have a second race coming up in about 10 minutes' time. But before we get to that, we'll point out the provisional results here from race 1. This is without any penalties that the students might apply. So it's Sebastian Job taking the race win for Red Bull Racing Esports team by 6.5 seconds back to Matt Emery. That is a rift when you consider the lap time is as short as it is around here. Then you've got Will Chadwick getting himself a podium with Jamie Moon in P4. Leo Garibaldi doing what he needs to do, especially with Higgins' problems earlier on in the race. That might be a significant change in terms of the AM Championship, with Garibaldi taking the race win there. Josh Malin in P6 with Ollie Peacock P7, Leon Penn P8, Luke Pennington P9. That's our second place AM driver, and Charles Rainford recovers to a top 10 finish. Then you got Jamie Rushworth there in P11 with Scott Mokes in P12, Brandon Blakeslee P13, Grove, Parker, Cox and Cedric round out the top 17 cars. Then you got Craig Williams in P18, Adam State P19, and a race to forget for Gareth Higgins down in P20 overall. That's where you'll start for race number 2 as well, remember. Jacob Tobbs and Thomas Cope will round out the 22 car finishing results here from race number 1. So, we've got a little bit of time to kill here in the middle between these two races, and Paul, you're going to be standing by with one of our 2 drivers that have made themselves available for an interview. Let's have a little bit of a chat to Will Chadwick first, Paul.
Yeah, absolutely. Will, I mean, let's start off with qualifying. It wasn't ideal for you, was it? It was. It wasn't the best for you today.
No, last 2 rounds really. I mean, last round I was just underprepared. This round I just choked. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, congrats to the people that did times ahead of me. I mean, Sebastian's time was really good, and likewise to Moon's, Emery's, and Rainford's. But yeah, I mean, for me it was just a bit of a choke because I had a lot more in it. A bit of pressure, and not being able to get it together for me was poor. But yeah, it was fine. It wasn't too bad.
But then, of course, you have the race. Then you have to try and move away through the field, and tell you what, it was hard work to start with to get past a couple of drivers. But then you had to chase down Matt Emery. Just how intense was that for you, having to put in lap after lap?
Well, I would say for me, and looking at the times, you know, after I got past Rainford and Moon, I think my race pace there was the best I've shown all season. I think that was the closest I've been to Sebastian. I actually gained on him a little bit since Moon, until I caught up to Emery. So I was really, really happy with the race pace, and I think that some of that credit goes to, I had a little chat with Jordan Caruso earlier in the week, and I think, you know, looking at how he was at Coach, I think he helped me out a bit there with the tyres and the race stints. At the end of the day, couldn't quite get past Matt. Bit of argy-bargy. I tried my best, but, you know, I'm not going to do anything that's suicidal, so it is what it is for the time being. I'm happy with third to at least get that from where we qualified, but yeah, it should have been second, really.
Well, go away and prepare yourself for race number 2, where you're going to be starting up near the front of the field.
Yeah, we'll give it a go. Thank you.
All the best, Will, and whilst we've got the opportunity to, let's have a word with Leo Garibaldi as well, because that's another AM win. But did you realise and know that your main championship rival had got involved in an incident right at the start?
No, actually, because I didn't see him and my relative at all. I thought maybe he PC'd or something, because I didn't see anything. Because I was too busy like taking off in the middle of the track, so I didn't see anything behind me.
Well, I mean, you did get a lightning start, but then just caught up with Chadwick and Pennington. We saw you and Pennington, you were having a tremendous battle between the two of you. Just how good was that from you to be able to duke it out with drivers lap after lap around here?
Well, the thing is, because I did some practice racing with this, and there is no place to overtake. So I just found that if you're just on it all the time, don't give them a little bit to breathe, then usually okay, you can kind of get an overtake. You just need to keep them on their toes like crazy.
And you're going to be starting front row of the grid, so you're hoping for another launch like you got in race 1?
Yeah, let's go for P1. Let's go P1 overall.
Well, all the best. We'll let you go and get prepared for this next race.
Thank you.
There we go, Connery, getting to speak to a couple of our drivers. Always good to hear their thoughts at this midpoint of the event.
Yeah, it is incredible, and well, it's good to get that insight from time to time about how things are going in these races and how what their expectations might be. But at least our expectations here for race 2, more of the same, Paul.
Chaos, carnage, and fantastic racing. Because to be fair, yeah, there was a little bit of rubbing, but also there was some tremendous racing action out there as well. You know, plenty of side-by-side action, and cars are able to go side by side through multiple corners around this track. It's a nice wide Grand Prix track, so there's plenty of space out there for them, even though a few drivers did trip over each other because they all want the same piece of asphalt. But certainly this is going to be a tremendous second race with that reverse grid as well.
Yeah, it absolutely will, and I think to make this a little bit more interesting, we should introduce a Robot Wars scoring system. We just judge everything by style, control, damage, and aggression. Okay, so that's how we should do championships from this point forwards, because I guess there will be a lot of point scorers in that last race.
I'll tell you what, I'd want to compete because I think I'd be a champion at that with my racing. But yeah, definitely, it was. Yeah, it was hyper aggressive out there,
yeah.
And but certainly some tremendous racing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But of course, we do have a reverse grid coming into this one. We have Josh Malin on pole position. However, Garibaldi starting from that P2, not quite as bad as you would think compared to P1, because again, like we had that discussion in the race, that P2 starts on the inside for turn 1. So it's so important for Garibaldi, if he does want that P1, to get that identical amazing start that he got in race number 1, because he might just have a chance to do so.
It's so easy to say, oh yeah, let's get a launch like race 1, but it's one thing to say it and another thing to do it. And these cars can be a little bit fickle as well with getting it off the line. So you know, it's going to be tricky for Leo, but I'll tell you what, if you're Sebastian Job, all his focus will be is get past 5 other cars and get to the front of the field.
Well, look, on the last couple of occasions that we've had a reverse grid, he's been in a position where he's gained 3 positions by the end of the first lap. You know, that's just that's more often than not the situation that has arisen. And when he hasn't done that, he's made contact with another car and he scored 0 points. So it's kind of a tale of 2 race 2s for Sebastian Job over the course of this season so far. Either he gets through the field fine, or he, for some reason, has contact. So, be interesting to see which one it is here today. With the chaos that we have seen, perhaps the contact scenario might be a little bit more likely. But we will just have to wait and see. That's certainly what Chadwick is hoping for. Let's just say that.
Well, yeah, we'll need everything that you can to help him with this championship. We are running out of races. We've only got 5 races remaining in this championship now. This series has just flown by, if you ask me. There we go. There we see the calendar. Donington Park, it's notorious for being tricky to overtake at. So, yeah, it's going to be difficult as that one for people to make moves forward. And Brands Hatch Grand Prix to finish off the season. I mean, who could forget last year's championship finale? We were absolutely on the edge of our seat with just how close that championship finale was there. And certainly, it just makes sense to go back there again. It's a traditional end to the Porsche Carrera Cup Great Britain Championship as well as Brands Hatch Grand Prix. So, yeah, it makes sense to go there at a track which all these drivers know very well.
Yeah, absolutely, and can be the host to some fantastic action. Like you said, the finale from last season was certainly one that you want to go back and watch at some point because that was so good. However, we do only have about a minute of warm-up here before we head ourselves in towards race 2. Again, very similar storylines to what we saw in race number 1. Leo Garibaldi has another fantastic opportunity to gain a whole boatload of points over his championship rival in AM class. Okay, so that's going to be his main task here today. It might mean. Thing is, I haven't really seen signs of this from Garibaldi so far in this season. I was going to say it might mean that he'll just sort of chill there in second place and not be too concerned about the race win, but you know what he said in that interview.
I'm sorry, these are racing drivers, they want to win. That's all they know, is that they want to win and they want to get the best result as possible. I mean, me, with my sensible hat on, I'm thinking long game, I'm thinking championship, I'm thinking, do you know what? I took a win in AM in race 1, let's try and get a win in AM for race number 2, maybe not overall win, but just take those championship points. Because if you try something and you try and defend like your life depends on it, you can end up costing yourself a race.
You could, absolutely. That's and you definitely don't want to have that happen towards the very end of the season in particular. We've got ourselves in towards the race session now, however. We can have a look at what our starting grid looks like then for race number 2 here at the Silverstone National Circuit. It is Josh Malin getting himself reverse grid pole position here today in the number 90 car. And then it's Leo Garibaldi in the 89 that sits there in P2 for Team PGZ. Then you've got JB Moon there in P3 for Team 75 Bernard by SimRC. Then you've got Altus Esports' William Chadwick starting in 4th here for race 2. Then you've got Matt Emery starting 5th with Sebastian Job from Red Bull Racing Esports team starting in that 6th place. I don't think he'll be 6th at the end of the first lap though, let me just tell you that. Ollie Peacock there, P7 for ATRS Esports. Leon Penn from Beef Central, fantastic team name there, in P8 with Luke Pennington in P9. Charles Rainford, our guest driver, starts in P10 with Jamie Rushworth in P11. Scott Boakes will start in 12th for Olympus. Then you've got Brandon Blakesley there for ATRS in P13 with Eric Grove from Pure Sims in P14. Jace Parker from Team DCWR in P15 with Adam Cox, one of our new drivers to the series, starting in P16. Jack Cedric from Inex in P17 with Craig Williams starting in P18. Then at the back of the field you have Adam State, Gareth Higgins looking to try and side his way through the fields in that to try and recover the NAM Championship. Then you've got Jacob Toffs there back in P21 with Thomas Cope rounding out the 22 car starting grid that we have here today at the Silverstone National Circuit. So about a minute away from getting ourselves the green flag and our little run down in towards our turn number 1 of Copse Corner. We saw a mixture of starts in race number 1, some getting the traction down, getting an amazing launch, some bogging down a little bit more than we've seen people doing over the past couple of races. So it caused a little bit of a cluster back in the mid-pack on the start of race number 1. Hopefully things are a little bit cleaner, Paul, for this race 2 start.
Yeah, hopefully so indeed, and we could get a nice clean race start. It's worth pointing out on the Porsche Twitch chat, there is a poll going on, starting from 6, where does Job finish? The majority of people are actually saying just podium, only 2 people saying first place, so people are a little bit split, but they definitely think that he's going to get a podium though, but you never know. You never know with this track. We've seen how intense the racing is out there, and well, we'll get to see how that pans out.
Our second race of the afternoon here at the Silverstone National Circuit is about to get itself underway. It's Josh Malin with the reverse grid pole position, our AM Championship leader, you can say at this point, on the front row as well of Leo Garibaldi. The engine notes rise once again. We're off and away again here at Silverstone, and immediately Malin coming across to cover off the move from Garibaldi in towards turn number 1. Job has gotten himself a very good start indeed. He's alongside Matt Emery in the early goings here already as we head our way down in towards Maggots and Beckett's for the first time. We're making them down into there, side by side in the background with Sebastian Job still down the inside of Emery and does gain that position. Meanwhile, side by side for P2, Garibaldi trying to defend now from Jamie Moon as they head their way down straight in towards Brooklands now, and immediately Sebastian Job looking for another position, this time around the outside of his Pro Championship rival of Chadwick.
Oh, that'll be nicely done as well if he can hold it, because it gets in the inside line for Luffield. Nicely done. Can he get the move completed though, because Chadwick can get on the power earlier. One corner exit of Luffield, but it's going to be hung out to dry here through Woodcote across the line. Oh, it's a big squeeze from Moon on Garibaldi, and here comes Job down the inside of Garibaldi. Chadwick's followed him through. All of a sudden, Leo is dropping down the order.
Yeah, that's, well, that's a gift there. Absolute gift for Sebastian Job, already up into P3. What did I say about gaining that couple of spots
there was big
here
smoke.
on the start?
There was big smoke there, and the car off.
Mokes. Got Mokes potentially involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, dropping all the way down the order there. A little bit more fighting going on as well further up the field, as you see Ollie Peacock and Matt Emery get into it a little bit in through Brooklands and now in towards Luffield. Emery on the inside, still an overlap for the ATRS Esports car on the outside, so Peacock can continue to challenge this, but will have to fall behind by the time they get through Woodcote and across the line once again. Leon Penn now on the outside of this one, potentially looking for an angle into Cop's corner, but decides against it.
Let's have a look then. So that's what it was, a big lock-up. And I tell you what, done an incredible effort not to wipe out anybody else out of that. Just getting that front wheel snatching, and it avoids everybody. As we go back to live pictures, and still, Ollie Peacock having to go side by side, as is Leon Penn. Again, a little bit of squeezing. I don't think it's that necessary to be squeezing down the Wellington Straight, but obviously they feel it's due. And meanwhile, Sebastian Job is fighting for second place now.
And actually, Jamie Moon keeps him behind. So that's a great defensive effort there through Brooklands and Luffield for the driver of Moon in that number 75 car. So keeping the championship leader at bay for now. Meanwhile, side by side between Penn and Rainford through Cop's corner, and here comes Pennington picking up the position, zooming his way down the inside. Easily gained there from Pennington due to Rainford being forced a little wide through the fastest corner on the circuit.
Yeah, it's so difficult to try and go too wide through there. It is possible to go too wide there unless you're a certain Formula 1 team boss. But still, you can't go too wide as long as you get the compromise from both drivers. And as you said, just Rainford getting hung out a little bit on the outside and having to hold it out wide. But look at this concertina effect through Luffield there, and a queue of cars towards the rear of the field. Everyone though still all together as we'll look back at this replay.
Down in towards Magatabek, is that Cedric on the inside there? I believe it is. Forcing the 36 wide. That's Gareth Higgins, and it's Higgins again involved in something in the early parts of the race that causes him to lose positions. This is an awful day for Higgins and his championship hopes.
It's a complete write-off, this. It is an absolute write-off for this, and he'll need to basically go into the next two rounds of the championship and look to get wins in every one of those for any hope of challenging Garibaldi, because once again Garibaldi is in that position to win in the AM class, so he's got that opportunity, and he's got a few cars between him and Luke Pennington as well. That's crucial for Leo.
It really is. Another little situation here coming off, going through Woodcote. This is towards the back of the field. In fact, it's at the very back of the field as we're on board with Scott Mokes, who is in the last place, but despite, there's battles going on everywhere. No matter if it's for the front of the field, middle of the field, or for the very back. But it looks like Charles Rainford's involved in a little bit of something here amongst the group of cars as this rear of the field battle continues to rage on as well. But everyone's still in pretty much one big line. Look at that.
Yeah, they are. This is great to see. Josh Malin trying his best to gap out at the front of the field, but he's slowly getting caught by Jamie Moon at the front. Here you go, across underneath our camera position there, across the line they go. But yeah, Job has not actually been able to get past Jamie Moon. Moon is putting up a very solid defence out there.
Yeah, but it's he put in a great amount of effort into this. You know, usually we'd see Sebastian Job already leading by this point here in race number 2. So being kept at bay in P3 is perhaps a little bit of a change of circumstances here for the Red Bull Racing Esports driver. However, it's nothing that he hasn't dealt with before in other series. So I'm still very confident in his skills here that he'll be able to get himself a little bit higher on the podium. However, you know, we can be surprised. You know, Jamie Moon has been surprising us so far with keeping Job at bay. No reason why he can't do that for the next 18 minutes. Meanwhile, replay with the 7. That is Scott Oakes. That's what happened to him to file him all the way towards last place.
I'm afraid that's only a 5.2 from the judges there. Didn't quite stick the landing on the 360 there. Yeah, unsettled the car on the inside curb through Copse, and because it is such a fast corner, as soon as the car gets unsettled, that's it. It breaks away. And don't forget these Porsche 911s, the 992 Cup car. The engine is at the very rear of the car, and that means that it acts like a pendulum. As soon as it gets out of line and you start spinning, there's no holding back.
So a pretty low score from the style category of our Robot Wars scoring system from Paul Smith. Meanwhile, battle between Matt Embry and Garibaldi there just very, very briefly on the way through the final couple of corners. Seems to be on board with Garibaldi. I thought we just had a little bit of a connection issue, a little bit of a blink there for the moment, but everything seems to have stabilised out for him. And he can continue on in that pass lead, of course, and especially with Higgins having more problems over the course of this race too. This is looking like a very comfortable day for Garibaldi. Meanwhile, State and Rushworth, those are the guys going side by side. There's a bit of puff of tyre smoke up ahead. Penn and Peacock swapping positions there.
Garibaldi's dropped positions. It must have been Garibaldi who's locked up, and Pennington seeing an opportunity as well.
Yeah, and Peacock having a bit of a connection trouble there as well, which is not exactly helping the situation, especially when all of these drivers are within some very tight confines. Coming through Luffield now, you don't want that unknown element hanging over your head. But there must have been some form of problem there in towards Magnussen Beckett because of that puff of tyre smoke. We didn't quite see it though. Meanwhile, Rainford down the inside of Copse. Oh, he had a big look at it on Pennington, but not going to be successful in doing so.
Here we go then. Let's have a look back. Let's see what happened here. Is it going to be a bit of a dive from Peacock? It is. And that's what the lockup was for. And there's the contact between the two of them. That allowed Leon Penn to go through, and I think it was a little bit of Peacock trying to let him past as Job. Now, he's trying to get second place here. Going to get it done around the outside of Brooklands. The answer is yes.
He is. Oh, he's going to have a little bit of issue through the middle of the corner, but he gets the launch off it, and well, here comes Chadwick through in the tyre tracks as well. The Altus Esports car up into 3rd place, trying to make sure that Sebastian Job doesn't get too far away from him. But Job has been the class of the field so far in this event. But only just getting up in towards P2. Now Malin, well, he has to be a little bit concerned now because he's going to have very shortly a very quick Sebastian Job bearing down on him. But Job is also getting pressure from Chadwick here. Meanwhile, back in the picture, you've got Henry looking to go the long way around on Moon. They're not going to find anything out there.
Difficult to get around the outside on Beckett. That is one corner that you don't want to be around the outside of. Down into Brooklands they go again, and Job already looking, sniffing around your race leader Will Chadwick. Well, he's trying to follow through and to challenge Job in all of this. Job, he's wanting to do one thing, and that's make it 4 perfect weeks here in this championship, getting 2 getting 4 rounds of the championship where he's won both the first race and the second race and got pole position. So Sebastian is doing everything that he can to try and get that result here.
Absolutely. But Chadwick has started to come to life a little bit here. He looked a little bit lost, to be honest, in race 1, apart from the end, of course, when he was trying to put in that very, very big challenge for those podium positions. However, the earlier parts didn't exactly go the best for him. But so down the inside there, Emery looking for a big challenge there on Jamie Moon in towards Brooklands, and outside of Luffield, it's been tricky over the course of the 2 races that we've had. Drivers have, in most cases, been unable to hang around the outside there and just lose the ground to the cars on the inside. It's like someone said in the chat, Porsche themselves said in the chat, it's not been a very happy place.
No, it's certainly not. But you can get the run out the corner, though. That's the thing. If you end up just running it a little bit wider and get the run out the corner, you can actually get a run down towards Copse, set somebody up in front for maybe not going through Copse, but into this section here, Maggots and Beckett's. Rather than going through the whole complex and on the Grand Prix layout, you turn a hard right onto the Wellington Straight. The national circuit here, which has hardly changed, it must be said, since about 1997 as this particular layout of the Silverstone layout. It's more the new section of the wing where the major changes were made. So the national layout, it is still pretty much as it was all the way back to 1997 when they reprofiled Luffield Corner.
So the new Luffield Corner is the same age as me.
Thanks for urging me.
Yeah, because I was born in 97. There we go.
Well, there's Chadwick and Moon. Oh, there's Job. Job to the lead.
Yep, indeed, but he's going to lose a little bit of ground down the straight here as Malin looks to try and come back at him. They're drawn back level. So if Malin goes out in the brakes here, he might still be able to hold on towards that P1. Meanwhile, you got the battle for P3 going on between Moon and Chadwick here as well. Malin around the outside of Luffield. There's going to be trading paint, bits of puffs of smoke as well. Chadwick down the inside. The surprise move. There's contact off the corner. Malin and Job off-track excursion as things continue on the circuit. You can see the frustration there from Josh Malin. He's not happy about the situation, but all of a sudden it's Chadwick leading with Job down in P5.
We could see that coming from an absolute mile off. We saw it in race 1, didn't we, with Charles Rainford making that lunge to the inside when the 2 in front were battling and had opened up the gap there. That's exactly what Chadwick saw. He saw a gap there because Malin and Job were too busy scrapping over the lead. He stuck it down the inside, and again, it's all come down. They've all converged as those lines into one. And it's Malin who's the big loser out of all of that, and I can completely understand his frustration there. Job, well, I don't think he'll be happy in dropping down to 5th place either.
Yeah, a couple of lost points. And, well, he has a big buffer at this stage, of course, but needs to make sure that he's more than a race meeting away. Here's the look. Oh, they're just all leaning each other to the corner. Chadwick down the inside. Yeah.
That's always going to happen. That is always going to happen when you've got 2 cars too wide. They're busy concentrating on themselves. Chadwick comes on the inside now. Is he pushing out? It's 3 into 1 there. Yeah. Absolutely 3 into 1. And yeah, Chadwick's taking. I tell you what, I'm glad that was in this series because good luck to the race stewards post event on that one.
Yeah, obviously that's, primarily Chadwick, but you can see the situation that Job was in. He was getting squeezed by Chadwick on the inside. He was also getting squeezed by Malin on the outside as well, coming off the corner, because Malin was trying to square off the corner. So he was basically the meat in the sandwich and just got squeezed from both pieces of bread.
I mean, there's nothing that Job can do in that situation. Yeah. As you say, he is just right in the middle of it all and he's got nowhere to go. So you do feel for Malin that the car on the outside gets unceremoniously dumped down onto the gravel there as Rainford's losing a couple of places. Jack Sedgwick now trying, after his trials and tribulations this week. He's trying to move forward as well.
Yeah, and well, Malin on the recovery, trying to battle with Cedric here. And well, we'll have to see the result of that. It's important to just get yourself back in the zone, especially after an incident like that. You got Charles Rainford now getting himself involved in this battle. Maybe a little bit of a love tap to the back of Malin there. And Charles Rainford's got himself past and now is challenging Cedric, but Malin's going to come back at the both of them on the inside. Don't make it happen the third time there with the 3 wide through Luffield, because we know how the other 2 times went. As meanwhile, on board, getting squeezed a little bit there through Woodcourt. A bit of a door barge there between Adam State. Not one time, but 2 times down the straight there. And a 3rd time through the middle of Cop's corner as Rainford gets sent out into the runoff.
It's all getting a little bit uncomfortable and a little bit overly aggressive. Rainford ended up with a slow-down penalty running that far wide into the runoff. So to really pour salt into the wound, not only do... Oh, that's a late dive from Emery. My goodness, he's made the move there. And I tell you, a little bit of a rub. It unsettles Emery's car. Great car control to hold on. But now it's Moon and Emery with Job trying to follow through.
Yeah, absolutely. Edwin looks pretty calm behind the wheel of that number 88 Porsche, especially given the set of circumstances. He'll have to be careful about any penalty coming from the stewards after this race as well, due to that 3 wide down the inside moment at Luffield. He wants to be trying to get as much of a gap as possible back to everyone else, so that if he does get a time penalty, then he won't lose too many points because of it.
I've just noticed Higgins has got himself up to 15th as well, so he's up to 5th place in AM. But look at this, the snake, the serpentine down the straight right now, and it's 4 for first. This is great racing. We've still got 7.5 minutes.
We do, and with all of these stacked up nose to tail, the 4 of them at the front of the field, that's what happens to one of the Pure Sims drivers. That was almost identical to the Rainford incident that we had as well.
It's Rushworth.
ECRS and Pure Sims, yeah.
Brendan Blakesley, the 77. So that's what's helped Higgins move forward in the AM classification, and that's going to help him just get some sort of points out of this round of the championship. He'd try and do as best as he can to get what little points that you can. And again, weaving down the Wellington Straight. You've got to be careful though, because if you weave too much, you can actually end up being classified as blocking. So you've got to be careful with that. And it's Chadwick at the front of the field, just a little bit of a touch there, a little bit of Morse code from Sebastian Job, just to say, hey, I'm here, you know.
Yeah, he is here. It's down in 4th place here at the moment. We can just continue to try and press on forwards. Thomas Cope losing positions there further down the order, down in towards P15 here at the moment, as Higgins again tries to, well, he's not getting points by passing a pro driver, however he's getting closer towards other AM drivers. Oh, look at that, leaning on each other through Cop's corner. They've been able to make it work, though, with Cope and Higgins. Higgins still has potential opportunity down the inside at Beckett's here, but that will be chopped off by the Olympus Esports number 64.
See? There you go. You can go too wide through Cops. Higgins, he's just doing all that he can to try and get whatever points he can out of this one. Now, Matt Emery, he's just trying to hold on to a podium here. He'll want the finish here on the podium, ahead of Sebastian as well. I mean, yes, he's taken advantage of Sebastian getting caught up in that incident with Josh Malin and Will Chadwick, but still, if you can finish ahead, that's something to take away from this one, as Garibaldi loses a place, and Pennington now, he's sniffing for a potential AM win.
He is. We've got his roof cam up on the screen right now. A little bit of a situation between the two there, an up and under attempt from Ollie Peacock over Garibaldi here. Let's see if he's successful in doing so. Going to have to try and complete it on the brakes down in towards Brooklands. Let's see if he launches it around the outside. He does. Big attempt from the ICRS Esports car, but Not successful in this instance, looks for a line into left field, which might become available. Garibaldi's going to wash up a little bit, and down the inside goes. That's ACRS Esports Carrera Peacock. This is a fantastic fight here for P6.
They're putting on a great show, and it's credit to Leo Garibaldi, because it's not easy to be fighting somebody who has got some sort of connection issue or connection routing issue going on there that's causing his car to blink in and out of existence. So that's what that is. If you're wondering, if you're new to iRacing, you're wondering why that car keeps on sort of disappearing and reappearing, that's why. It's just a little bit of inconsistent connection that's just causing the car to lose connection very, very briefly. So it's an incredibly difficult thing to do, because when you're side by side like this, like Leo Garibaldi is now, and you're turning into Brooklands, you're thinking, well, I've got to leave space. And speaking of leaving space, Jamie Moon finds himself with plenty of space in front of him.
Jamie Moon up into the race lead with make it 3.5 minutes left to go in the race. Now that one is a bit of a change at the very front of the field there. It's a fantastic opportunity for him to get himself a race win here in race number 2. Here's the onboard with Will Chadwick though. Even a little bit trivial losing that position, didn't it?
I don't know if maybe he's pushed the tyres a little bit too hard, and I mean, that last lap was a 56.1 from Chadwick with him losing that place compared to a 55.7. Emery and Job in the 55.4s right now. The pace is still there between these drivers. These drivers are duking out, and Jack Sedgwick making moves, getting ahead of Peacock, and is now going to try and swoop past Leo Garibaldi.
And is almost clear. He is clear now. So Jack Sedgwick, fantastic sequence of corners there to be able to pull off his passes. And now Peacock's down the inside of Garibaldi. They get very close on the brakes in towards Copse Corner there. Very, very close indeed. And now Garibaldi will be able to try and come back at that ATRS Esports car, but not going to be finding the line here into Beckett's. Meanwhile, this is where we want to be looking. The race leads. Look at the weaving that Jamie Moon's doing. And look at the move that Emery's trying to pull off. Oh, gets completely blocked off. And there's Sebastian Job charging around the outside. Going to get blocked a little bit by Chadwick heading in towards Luffield. And now it's been drawn back into a side-by-side battle with Emery instead. But Emery's going to lose a little bit of ground on the outside here. Things just getting more and more interesting for our top pack.
I felt that Chadwick was a little late with that block then on Emery, and I think that's why Emery had to get out of it. That's what kept Sebastian Job that position, and he goes through into third place. And he's wanting to get past Chadwick. He wants to really stamp his authority on the championship. Meanwhile, Chadwick is looking forward to Jamie Moon, and we've only got about a lap and a half remaining in this race.
We do, and as Job is applying the pressure to Chadwick and allowing Moon to sort of run away a little bit at the front of the field. Here comes Sebastian Job then down the inside of the Altus Esports car. Another big attempt to get up in towards P2. He's just about clear into Luffield, but that advantage just slips away a little bit as Chadwick, washing out in the middle a little bit. Just trading paint with the Red Bull Racing Esports car on the outside. And now it's wheel to wheel once again through Woodcut. The squeeze being given very slightly there by Sebastian Job. Matt Emery tempted to try and make it 3 wide, but into Copse Corner, that's basically impossible. 2 wide, yes. 3 wide, no. Chadwick's going to lose a little bit of momentum on the outside, through the exit of Copse Corner there. Still opportunities, though, for Chadwick to come back. Still opportunities for Emery to do something about this as well. But for Moon, that gap of 1 second might just be enough. Back to Sebastian Job to take his first ever race win in the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup, Great Britain. Just a couple of corners away from that now is Jamie Moon. Matt Emery looking down the inside of Chadwick in towards Brooklands in the very dying moments of this race. 5 seconds left to go. The time ticking down away. Job will have to settle for P2, but it's a 75 of Jamie Moon that comes across the line to take the race win here at the Silverstone National Circuit. Fantastic effort, fantastic defensive effort, especially in the early portions of the race. and it allows Moon to taste a little bit of glory.
That was some sensational racing between Chadwick and Job on that penultimate lap there, to go around the outside at Luffield. Not many people had been able to make that work, and then to carry that on through Copse Corner side by side, giving each other space. It's respectful racing. That's what we want to see there, but what a drive. Jamie Moon must have been seeing that in his rearview mirror and laughing all the way to the checkered flag.
Yeah, absolutely, and I wish we had his webcam just to see his reaction to that as well, because it was a hard-fought race win there for Jamie Moon, and well, it wasn't like he got reverse grid pole position and just benefited from it. He started third, so he did need to pull off a couple of passes to be able to make this one work. The Team 75 Bernard by Sim RC car takes the race win here in race 2. Jamie Moon, well deserved. Sebastian Job P2 though, ahead of William Chadwick there, P3. Remember, these are provisional results as well, so we might see a penalty at some point come for Chadwick. We got Matt Emery there in P4 with Leon Penn P5, Cedric P6 with Ollie Peacock in P7. Leo Garibaldi with an amazing day here in the AM Championship. It couldn't have gone all that much better. Another AM class win and another tough day for Higgins, finishing down the order. So that has completely changed the complexion of the AM Championship. Got Luke Pennington with a very comfortable day actually as well, scoring some very good points in that AM Championship, with Josh Malin there down in P10 after that incident that we saw at the front of the field. Then you've got Adam State in P11 overall, with Adam Cox in P12 with a decent performance here in race 2, considering that he is a new driver to the series. Charles Rainford involved in a lot of things here today. He's down in P13 overall, with Thomas Cope P14, Eric Grove P15. They've got Gareth Higgins there down in 16th place overall. Then you've got Craig Williams P17, Rushworth, Parker and Toft to round out the top 20. And then you have Blakesley and Mokes rounding out the top 20, the entire 22 finishing results. So we got a little bit of an interesting situation here, considering the discussion that we see in the chat, because there was a little bit of confusion, Paul, about whether or not that race should have gone one lap longer than it did. Well, we both saw the time expire, though, didn't we?
It's a timed race. Time ran out. They crossed the line. Jamie Moon crossed the line at the finish with a time of 25 minutes and 5 seconds. 0.955. So you've run out of time. So this championship is done by timed races. It's 25-minute timed races in both race 1 and race 2. The lap limit is put there just because that is what the iRacing system requires you to do, to give it a lap limit to the race, just in case for whatever reason you're somehow able to go that bit quicker.
Yeah, absolutely. So at least from my perspective, that all worked just how it should work. It's just maybe the drivers weren't quite up to date on what the rules are. So I got a little bit concerned there, very slightly, looking at the in-race chats about people saying, "Oh, that should have gone one lap longer." But no, everything is fine. That's just how the times races work here in iRacing. But we do have the opportunity to have a little bit of a chat with our drivers. And well, Paul, you're standing by with Leo Garibaldi with another AM class win.
Yeah, another AM class win. Leo, I mean, you said you were going to go for it, and then you kind of sort of decided to play the percentages and just concentrate on getting the AM win, it seemed, from the outside looking in.
To be honest, I just heated my tyres way too quick. I don't know if it picked up on the broadcast, but coming into the final corner, I got a bit of wheel spin going in, and from that point on, my rears were gone, so I couldn't really defend much. So I did try to be in the top pack, but I spun the rears. That's my fault.
But you still get yourself an AM win over Luke Pennington, who really coming into this week was 32 points off of the overall championship lead. Gareth Higgins, he's finished further down the order again, did get a bit of a recovery drive. It's put you in a good position going into the final 2 rounds of the championship. I mean, how do you feel with Donington and Brands Hatch coming up?
Well, I feel good already with them, but simply put, I've got a bit of peace of mind now I'm ahead again. That's it, really. Now, not that I can relax, but now I can feel better, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's always better to lead than to be chasing, that is for sure. But, Leo, we'll let you get away, but congratulations again on 2 AM Championship wins here today.
Very much.
Well, there we go. That was a little bit of conversation there with Leo Garibaldi, who's put himself in a very, very good spot in terms of AM Championship coming into the final 2 race meetings of the season, because we can start to talk about that a little bit now. We're going to be heading towards Donington Park for our next event, which is always a barrel of laughs there and a lot of fun at Donington there in the East Midlands. Then, of course, we head to Brands Hatch Grand Prix for our finale. But, Paul, thoughts on Donington, especially when it comes to Porsche 911 GT3 Cup races?
It can be a little bit difficult to overtake at Donington, I think it's fair to say. You've got the challenge of the opening of the lap, going down the crane of curves into the old hairpin. We see plenty of incidents happen at the old hairpin, so it's one of those spots. And then McLean's up to Coppice. The best opportunities out of Coppice, the run down the straight there, down the Starkey Straight to make the moves in this championship. But yeah, Donington Park in a couple, well, it's more than a couple of weeks' time. It's certainly going to give us some plenty of thrills and spills, and could help a couple of our drivers get themselves one step closer to a championship.
Yeah, we will have to have a little bit of an extended break here in the series. Usually it's 2-week gaps between the races, but for this time we'll have a 3-week break, which I bet the drivers will be somewhat appreciative of, that they don't have to put in immediate preparation for the next event. But that's going to be all that we have time for here for the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain. This has been round number 11 and round number 12 at Silverstone National. Congratulations to Sebastian Job on a race 1 win. Congratulations to, of course, Jamie Moon on that emphatic performance in race 2 as well. We've got a 3-week break before we head to Donington Park. Join us for that once it happens. But from myself, Connery Maddock, from Paul Smith, we all have to say goodbye.